I'm sure you've all seen by now what happened in Ceuta last week, the Spanish enclave in Africa that borders Morocco. 50,000, 60,000 even migrants crossed the border, and the population of Ceuta is only 80,000. So it was a massive crisis for the Spanish government. Now, this didn't happen out of nowhere. It was intentional. It's not organic. There are organic migrant crossings there, but this was not one of them. The scale was unlike anything seen before. We can only speculate for now, but Morocco likely had a hand in this. And one possible reason they may have done this is because Spain signed a deal recently with Algeria over energy, and that upset Morocco. Now, they've done this before, sending thousands of migrants across the border to put pressure on Spain for other things, such as issues relating to the Western Sahara, which Morocco occupies. But needless to say, this is another example of refugees, migrants being used as a tool of statecraft. We've seen this in Belarus. We've seen this in Erdogan's Turkey as well. It seems to be in vogue. Italy, Denmark immediately attacked Spain, saying that they wanted to revoke Spain's participation in the Schengen free movement. This is likely done more for domestic politics than anything else. Italy and Denmark have far right governments, at least relating to migration. And they hopped on this because it went viral on the internet and they wanted to impress their base. Ireland is currently hosting the European presidency right now. And so this crisis is actually, unfolding in Dublin City right now between different ministers of state. And so I have an interesting article here in the Irish Times about it. I'm going to read to you now. Ireland will set out the need for solidarity with Spain in the aftermath of last week's migrant crisis in Ceuta, when Minister for Justice Jim O'Callaghan chairs an emergency meeting of EU ministers today. Tensions have risen in recent days after some EU member states warned they could impose border checks and even suspend Spain's participation in Europe's free travel zone, the Schengen area. Ireland has convened an emergency meeting of EU Justice and Home Affairs ministers as part of its presidency of the Council of the European Union. O'Callaghan will open the meeting, with the government source saying he will seek to re-establish solidarity and unity at the heart of the European project. He will also outline the need for the EU to work effectively together and how we deal with third countries. He will call for this to be done in a more collaborative way that has been seen in recent days. Countries such as Italy and Denmark have taken a hard line on the crisis and were among those that wrote to European Council President Antonio Costa, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and Taoiseach Micheál Martin over the weekend. In the letter, 22 EU leaders requested an extraordinary meeting of interior ministers to decide on an immediate and coordinated European response. On Monday, Spain's Foreign Minister, Jose Manuel Albares, told TVE, Spain's state-owned station, that nearly everyone who illegally crossed into Ceuta last week has left. He pledged to return every last person to Morocco. Spain has bristled at the pile-on by other European countries, accusing fellow EU members of lacking the unity it says the bloc must display in such moments. Spain also insists it acted rapidly in response, halting the crisis before it spread. That outcome has not prevented tensions from spilling over between EU members. Spain and Italy, in particular, have been trading barbs. There have been states that have not risen to the occasion, governments that have not risen to the occasion, Alvarez said. The Italian government has been one of them. I mean, right off the bat, I think it's insane that the reaction that came from Italy and Denmark. Like I said, it's probably for domestic reasons, but still, to create sort of the divide that weaponizing migration is aiming for. I mean, they just basically gave Morocco what they wanted here by making the crisis even worse for Spain. So they're just proving that this works. And of course, Spain managed to resolve the issue within the space of a couple of days. And so now, with hindsight, we can say that it was a massive overreaction from the Italian and Danish government. Definitely. And I think Ireland's right in trying to back Spain on this. I mean, the reaction from all EU countries should have been just like uncritical support for Spain. They're the ones being, I mean, essentially attacked in like a hybrid sort of way by Morocco, showing that this works, that you can weaponize migration to create a crisis and division within the EU you're encouraging over other governments to do it more and more and more. Now, it's already happening, like I said, in Belarus and in Turkey, but by God, way to add to it, right? The second point I want to make on this is that the EU Migration Pact has allowed for the deportation to third countries of asylum applicants while their application for asylum is being processed, they'll be held in countries outside the EU. So we're essentially going to be increasing the population of migrants, refugees that are on the border with the EU, and we're going to be handing them over to said countries. So we're basically saying, we're showing it here like, hey, we're going to use your country as a refugee camp. Oh, and by the way, if you use them against us like this, it works. I mean, just get prepared for more and more of this in the future. The third and final point I want to make on this is just how depressing it is. The weaponization of desperate people by states that are willing to trade their lives just to make a point to foreign governments is disgusting. 72 migrants died in this crossing in Ceuta. That blood is probably on the Moroccan government's hands as much as it is anyone else's. And I just think we're heading for more and more of this. And I just think the entire thing is tragic.